Hello everyone, Steve here, back again with another tabletop baseball video. I'm going to give you a quick update on my 1972 Pirates replay. I just finished 4 games with APBA, and at the end I'm also going to talk briefly about a change in my approach to keeping score and keeping statistics. So without further ado, let's jump in. So just as a recap, this was the 1972 National League standings, final standings. They played, at least the Pirates played 155 games because some games were lost at the beginning of the season due to work stoppage, as I understand it. As I think I mentioned, these 4 games that I played were with the San Francisco Giants, and they were, I believe, in May of 1972. So the Giants finished 5th in the NL West. They were 5th in runs scored, so they had a pretty good offense, but they were 10th in runs allowed, and their actual won-loss record was much worse than the Pythagorean calculated record. So I don't know if that's just bad luck, or maybe when they won big. I don't know, but in any event, that's the Giants. I also see here that the attendance was 12th out of 12 teams in the National League. So you've seen this before if you watch my videos. This is the list of games that I intend to use for this replay. APBA was not originally on my list. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. But it did make the list, and the way things worked out, I've played it early in the process. There's a game called Back to Basics I may use. I bought that. People ask me about inside pitch. It's possible I'll do inside pitch, but if so, I would do inside pitch advanced, which was released a few months ago. And as I've said many times, I would do deep drive if they had a 1972 season. So games 40 to 43 were played. The Pirates won 3 and lost 1, just like in real life. There was a lot more scoring in these games compared to real life, although cumulatively runs scoring is still below what the actual was, mainly because the first 25 games were payoff pitch, and those were lower scoring. Time travel baseball with the San Diego Padres is what's up next. I'm not sure when I'll get to that. One game actually in this Giants series was the final score was 12 to 14. Definitely one of the higher scoring games that I've had. Before I talk about APBA, these links will be in the description to this video. They're carefully selected, so I encourage you to check them out. Obviously, there's the APBA website, which, if you're listening, there's 99% chance you know what APBA is and where to get it, and so on. And then a couple links for GreenFox that I'm going to talk about at the end. As always, like the video if you like it. If you don't like it, I'd prefer you comment. If you do like it, you can comment. And of course, you can always subscribe to the channel if you want updates. I do have a couple of videos, 2 or 3 videos that are kind of in the back room working on. One is about defense, and one is about offensive run production. And maybe I'll get around to doing another one about payoff pitch, but we'll see what happens. So I had an interesting very first inning when I pulled out APBA, playing APBA Basic, and so the Pirates were the visiting team, and Dave Cash led off, and I rolled a 6-6, which is of course very appropriate when you're playing APBA, that your first roll should be 6-6, which sent me over to column 2 of his card, and I rolled a 3-3, and so I had a leadoff home run. The next batter, Manny Sanguian, he rolls a 1-1, so I had to re-roll on his column 2, and he hits a single. And then Roberto Clemente gets another single, and then we have Willie Stargell come up, and you see his card here, and assuming I've read it right and so on, he rolls a 6-2 for result number 41. And if you go to column D, no, it's not column D. It's just the fielding column 3 is what that should say. It's a triple play. And so, yeah, first triple play I've ever had in playing baseball sims, and it was in my first inning of APBA. And apologize about that column D reference. Anyways, it's the bases loaded result board. Speaking of fielding, APBA Basic uses a team-based fielding approach. And assuming I have this right, you can see in the first 2 columns of numbers, there's a range of possible fielding ratings, with the kind of the infielders being more valuable, if you will, than the other positions from this respect. In general, the Giants had in all the games a 3 fielding rating, which is the worst. And in at least one of the games, the Pirates had the fielding should say at the bottom, should say fielding 1, the best fielding rating. Now, by the time of the last game, which was the second game of a doubleheader, the lineup was a lot different, and actually the Pirates fell all the way down to fielding 3, just barely under the 35 threshold. So that's fielding. So here's some impressions. But before I start, you see I have a couple pictures here. There's the famous who do you like, Ginger or Marianne? And that's kind of an ongoing debate. I'll just leave it to your guess as to who I might prefer. But you see on the right, you have Oreo cookies and Girl Scout cookies, Do-si-dos, those peanut butter cookies. My wife likes Oreos. I do not. I love those Girl Scout cookies. They're all legitimate cookies, and it's just what I like and what I don't like. As it relates to APBA, I can't say I don't like it. However, it's not, compared to some other games that are out there, especially some of the modern games, I think it shows its age a bit. I do fully appreciate why those people who love APBA love it. And I do have a better appreciation for it now that I've played some more games with it. In terms of the basic game, it's a very shallow learning curve. It's an easy game to learn. I've studied it quite a bit, actually, even before playing it, including reading old copies of APBA Journal, and because I am interested in how kind of the math works. And I have an APBA video, which I didn't provide in the links. Maybe I will in the description, where I talk a little bit about the math behind APBA. I bought a few years ago the large result board book, and I think it's like 10 inches by 12 inches or something like that. Very large. And unless you have poor eyesight, I would say don't get the big one. It was just very cumbersome. I have, for various reasons, limited space on my desk, um, and just flipping the pages in the board book uh, turned out to be a bit cumbersome for me. I did go out to the patio and sit and lay out the board on the table, and that helped a lot until the cat came and sat on the result board. So, in any event, in terms of the cards themselves and playing with results boards, I am familiar with playing with results boards. I've played long ball, and they have essentially result charts or boards based on the runners on base situation. I played batter up, and it also has result boards. In both those cases, well, I won't say both cases, but at least in the case of batter up, each board is a 8.5 by 11 sheet. For some reason, I was a little slow at first looking up numbers. I would roll the dice. I would lay the dice beside the card, because between the dice and the two columns on the card, you've got a bunch of numbers, usually 2-digit numbers. And just to keep my focus, I just had to be very deliberate. And it's not really a criticism of APBA. It's more just a criticism of me. But I got used to it. And pretty soon, and I've heard this from other APBA players, but pretty soon, if you've got an A pitcher and there's a 9 rolled, that single is going to be taken away, or if a 31 comes up with the bases empty, it's probably going to be a fly out to center field, stuff like that. And 13 and 14, of course, being strikeouts and walks. So yeah, I mean, I can see how people breeze through games in 20 minutes if they've played APBA for a long time. We talked about the first inning already. We've talked about the team-based fielding, which I'm fine with for what I'm doing. I understand not only with fielding, but just in general, the master game provides a lot more depth, if you will, to the gameplay, and that's beyond the scope of this video. I was happy to see that the basic game included the supplemental pitcher codes for walks, strikeouts, and home run frequency, because that's very important. It's not a bullet point on here, but as it relates to the result boards, it is to me a little strange that APBA, not strange, but it's unfortunate that APBA had to kind of play with the result boards to subdivide the results. With only 2 D6 dice, there's only 36 possibilities. And so for some results, they have to vary by the number of runners on base. And in and of itself, that doesn't really bother me, except it just doesn't seem like a very, very elegant design in a way. But on the other hand, within the construct of the game engine, it is quite sophisticated, even though it may not be ideal. It is very, very sophisticated, and I can see why you can get reasonably accurate results with APBA. The one weird thing I noticed, and this came up in the game I played last night, was several times there'll be a single and a 2-base advance, or a double and a 2-base advance, 3-base advance, or 2-base advance, and the runners will advance the initial base or bases, and then in the final base, if he's a slow runner, he gets thrown out. And it just seems like for example, I had Willie started on second, and there was a single. I would just advance him to third, and there would be no play at the plate. But in the case of him being a slow runner, he was deemed thrown out at home. Maybe that's actually okay. It's just, there was no manager decision, if you will. Again, I appreciate APBA for its historical significance. I appreciate that there's, hundreds of thousands of people that have played it and love it. I just probably am not one of those, which is fine. I'm actually glad I played it. So, as it relates to the result boards, this is a screenshot from a long ball helper, and as I said, it has result boards, sort of similar to APBA. It has the 8 runners on base situations, and it has 50 result numbers compared to 42 or so on APBA. But anyways, I created a dice roller for long ball, and I also created kind of a helper. So if you type in the result number, in this case it was a 9, it will pull up all the result boards on the screen, and then long ball has pitching grades 1 through 4, which is very much like A through D in APBA, and so that could make, if there's something like this existed, that could make APBA more fun to play, in my opinion, at least less cumbersome as it relates to the result boards. So yeah, in the middle, I talk about the result boards as well. I found them kind of awkward to read in terms of, like in the case of the double play on an APBA board, it would say A for assist for the shortstop, and PO for second base for the initial put out, and A second base, and PO 1B. And to me, the APBA result boards would be so much better if they just said 6-4-3. But they don't. But that's how I would do it on the helper. And as you can see down below, there's a double play, and that's kind of how I would do the boards if I was in charge. But all good. So my last comment here is I haven't really talked about how I'm keeping stats, but I'm keeping stats. Had been keeping stats with an Excel spreadsheet and scoring the games by hand, as I think you saw on an earlier slide. There is a free Excel-based scorekeeping system called GreenFox, and it's created by Mike Ignatowski. I was kind of a beta tester in the very early days of GreenFox, and then I kind of moved away from it when I decided to start keeping score by hand. But Mike reached out to me again and asked me, how I was keeping score and whether I would consider using GreenFox, and he helped me get set up. And so the last 2 games of this replay, I have actually kept score in GreenFox. The big advantage is that it lets you keep score electronically. It clears up a little space on your desktop, and most importantly, it compiles the stats. And the latest versions of GreenFox allow you to manage a replay or a league or what have you. And even though it's in Excel, and some of the functionality feels like Excel, essentially with all this VBA, Visual Basic programming that he's done, you wouldn't necessarily even know it's in Excel. But I encourage you to check it out. As I said and provided earlier, there is a Facebook group where you can reach out to Mike. It's also where people share their experiences with GreenFox, and there are videos that you can watch to learn how to use it. And Mike is very helpful in terms of getting people set up and started, and he does this really as a labor of love. So my last thought is just check it out, and more to come. Thanks for listening. Take care. Have a good day.